Well, we're delighted to have our first caller on the line today. We've got Tom from Sheffield. Tom's been a long-standing supporter of this channel. Great to finally have him on. Thanks for joining, Tom. And really, what's your immediate reaction to the England victory against Mexico? That's the story we're all talking about.
Yeah, not a worry. Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. Yeah, like I said, I've been listening a couple of times now, and catching up with you guys, doing a little bit after game analysis, etc. So that's been brilliant to listen to. So just on the England Mexico thing, I found it interesting to watch that we were dealing with a team that didn't play a low block. It allowed us to be free. We were quick. We were passing balls through the lines, and we didn't have to worry about sort of the pressure attached to breaking everything down and any sort of nerves attached to that. And I think we played quite freely. And I think the goals sort of showed that.
Yeah, interesting you say that, Tom. And hi, thanks for tuning in. We've said quite a lot on this podcast that against those low block teams are arguably going to be amongst our hardest games, and those teams that do go after us a bit, we can probably utilize the resources that we've got and would get a result at the end of it. What do you think was the difference in this game that you saw that we probably didn't see in previous games?
I think it's a good point. I think that we fed on the occasion because we weren't dealing with having to break a team down over 90 minutes and it was quite open and quite free. We were able to really sort of enjoy it. And I think that's come across in some post-match interviews and sort of enjoying the occasion when a lot of the press and a lot of the people surrounding it, certainly pundits, were very 50-50 on whether the occasion would beat us, whether we played well or not, whether the occasion itself would be the problem. But I think we really fed off it. And you just see the brilliance between Jude and Harry. Whatever whatever coaching's going on in those training camps, it's showing. And because we were free, because we were enjoying it, I think we really took that occasion to Mexico and come out on top.
I mean, it's a great point, Tom. I guess the follow-up there is, do you think our defence has the fortitude against the likes of possibly Norway, Argentina and France to make it to the very end of the tournament? What's your view there?
Yeah, so I do have a slight concern over our defence. I think if games are going to be won and lost by tiny details, fine details, I think our defence is where it might go a bit off. It's worth noting that some of the players that Tuchel that he took to America haven't necessarily played with each other before. So you've got Konsa that hasn't really played alongside Stones too much. And then you've got Gahey, who hasn't really played too much in front of Pickford. So those tiny details and that little bit of, call it a detail, but those little pieces against your teams like Norway, against your teams like France, who I genuinely do fear. I fear we will come against France in the final. They will exploit that. They're frightening in attack. Their transitions are scary. But the issue is, will we defend tightly enough and will we be fully in control of those situations when it comes? Because we know they will. So, yeah, I have a little concern over the defence. I think if we're going to fall down, it will be that.
What's your back four, Tom? What's your back four for the Norway game if you were manager?
Yeah, good question. I think I would. I don't believe Reece James is fit. And even if we pushed him over the line and in some sort of miracle they declared him as fit to play, I would probably still stick with Konsa rather than carrying the doubt of is James fit enough to do, a half or 90 minutes. I would probably put Konsa on the right. I would have John Stones in the middle. And I would have probably Mark Gay there. There's a question mark over Dan Burn because of his really impressive performance towards the end of the Mexico game. Has he earned that almost? But I think for consistency, Mark Gay is probably the one there. And then on the left, I'd probably have to stick with O'Reilly again. I know Dan Burn could potentially do that as well. I think we're lacking a little bit of height in that defence without obviously Maguire in there. And with Dan Burn being, I think he's 6'5", is he? 6'4" in there. So that could be another detail. But yeah, I think it would have to be Konsa, Stones, Gahey and O'Reilly, I think.
And you make a great point there, Tom, because watching Norway against Brazil, they had so much attacking venom from the flanks, particularly the left flank in the second half as well. That is our weakest position this tournament. O'Reilly's a good player, but he's not a natural fullback either. So do you think we'll have enough to negate Haaland and their attacking wingers in this game?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very worried about Haaland, of course, as every defence should be. The numbers speak for themselves for him. However, he's not invincible. He does have games where he goes quiet, and he does have periods in games where he goes quiet. Um, I think it will help that a couple of our players actually play with him at club level. I think that might help us. A bit of an insight into sort of what makes him tick, or how to maybe wind him up a little bit. Little games, little tactics. So I'm hoping that will go in our advantage, and we can use that to get somewhere with him.
Yeah, totally agree.
Of-
And I would go for Stones and Gay myself. Likewise, as you mentioned, City boys, so they probably know how to defend against him more so than others. And to be quite frank, I think once Reece James did get the injury, that back four that you just described there should have been our back four going into the next games. I thought the decision to bring Clonser in such a massive game for England, such a historic game, he's not had those types of games at club level, certainly not in an England shirt. And it was a bit of a short sighting there to play him. I mean, you could argue that Spence would have even been a better shout just because of the fact that he has played in the tournament. But Conser for me had to have started right back and just slot in John Stones. And then in terms of Dan Burn, I think he's almost like an impact player when you need him towards the end, isn't he? And he did a fantastic job. I know Matt had previously questioned his inclusion in the squad, but Tuchel brought him for a specific reason, and we saw that against Mexico. And if that's the difference to get us over the line against that game, he's more than worth his position there. And as you rightly mentioned, it does provide a bit of cover at left back should we need it. Because did the pressure slightly get to him? I know the Mexicans were going to try and wind him up a bit, and he did have that little elbow in another game that could have actually gone against him. So that's my only concern there. But really, realistically, that back four that you described is the best that we've got. And I honestly think even if we had Trent in that team, that would still be our back four. I don't think there's enough trust in Trent to start him in a massive high-profile game like that. I know that's drifting into another conversation, but in terms of the back four, is there another player that wasn't brought by Tuchel that you think should be in that team and actually starting?
Yeah, great question. I know there was a lot of talk about the Harry Maguire, not bringing Harry, and I thought that was the wrong call, if I'm honest. Even if you were if Tuchel was in a position to tell him that you're not going to get the minutes you always have done in an England shirt, but we want you there. You bring a lot to the team. You've been and done it. If you look at tournament experience, that does have impact. And I'm sure he would have took that on the chin. So I'm surprised that didn't go in Harry's favour there. The Trent question is an interesting one. I think it's fair to say he's also got an interesting injury record. However, his delivery is frightening. So are we missing a piece there by not having that? I know Declan does a lot of that now, delivery wise, but it's just potentially a bit of a missing piece. But I guess time will tell. And when we're against opposition that we should really worry about, your France and your Argentinas, are we going to miss that little bit of detail?
Wholeheartedly concur on both, Tom. I've been banging the drum for Trent and Maguire from the start. So agree there. Final question, we're short of time. What would your prediction be for Norway-England? Do you think we'll get the job done?
I think we will. I think it'll be one of those sort of cagey 2-1 wins. I reckon there'll be lots of tactical fouls. There'll be lots of little mind games, but I think we might just squeeze it with a 2-1 win.
Fingers crossed. That was a wonderful call, Tom. Thanks a lot. Great insight, and we hope to have you back on the show again soon. Appreciated.
No worries, fellas. Keep it up. Thank you.
Cheers.